All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Murray City Planning Commission meeting for November 7th. I want to welcome everybody in attendance and those viewing on Murray City streaming video feed. I'll introduce the commissioners here. From your right, Scott Woodbury, Aaron Patterson, Bill Markham, Sue Wilson, Lisa Milkevich, and Travis Name, myself, Ned Hacker. And staff this evening, Jared Hall and Zach Smallwood. Few meeting housekeeping items I'd like to bring your attention to is if you have communication devices, electronic devices, I'd ask that you turn them off or turn them down. If you get a call, I'd ask that you take them out into the hallway, respect the other people here for the meeting tonight. And if you have a sidebar conversation, I'd ask that you take that out into the hall as well. If you have public comment, we'll invite you up to the podium and have you state your name and your address for the record. We'd request that the individuals making public comment restrict their comments to 3 minutes. And if you're making a comment for a group of people, restrict your comments to 5 minutes. So with that, we have no meeting minutes from last meeting to approve, so we'll skip item number 1, move to agenda item number 2, which is conflict of interest. And I'd ask if there are any commissioners that have a conflict of interest with items on the agenda this evening.
No.
All right, good. And item number 3 is approval of findings of fact. We have 2 of those. Have you had opportunity to read those? If you have any comments or entertain a motion to approve those.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the findings of fact for Ron Court accessory dwelling unit. It's a conditional use permit. The property is addressed 618 East, 5900 South, and also an electronic message center sign for Envision Cosmetic Surgery. It's a conditional use permit as well, and it is addressed at 5417 South Commerce Drive.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. And agenda item number 4 is JT Electric LLC requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow the operation of an electrical contracting business at the property located at 4303 and 4309 South, 590 West. Is applicant here this evening for that? Okay, great. We'll have you come up in a little bit. And Zachary Smallwood will give us a staff report.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for an electrical contracting business at 4303 and 4309 South 590 West. You can see it here. It's roughly bounded by 5th West on the east side, 590 on the west, and about 4300 South. It is in the MG zone. Contracting businesses are a conditional use in this zone, so that's why they're before you this evening. Couple site photos, just to kind of go over the site a little bit as well. In our pre-meeting, Lisa, you had a question about the off-site, or I'm sorry, the on-site parking in the fenced area. That's the fenced area that's completely shaded from the rest of the area. Just kind of showing you where the building is a little bit. This is the specific unit here. This was just kind of showing the rest of the site along that portion. This is the site plan that was submitted. They will be taking 4303 and 4309, which are these 2 units highlighted in red. And then this yellow section here is the gated off-site fenced area where they'll be storing vehicles. Again, little elevation plan for you, just show you where the property is located. Floor plan, it's mostly open. That's where they'll be storing their materials, and that kind of stuff. And they will have a couple offices. I believe they said 9 people will be on staff at this location. So with that, pretty straightforward. We are recommending approval for this conditional use permit, subject to the 5 conditions before you. Are there any questions for me?
Questions for staff?
No.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So would the applicant please come forward and state your name and your address for the record, please?
Business address or home address?
Either one.
John Taft, 4303 South, 590 West, Murray, Utah, 84123.
And have you had an opportunity to read the conditions for approval?
I have,
And will you be able to comply with those?
yes.
And do you have anything else to contribute to the staff report?
I don't think so. I think I appreciate the approval of the conditional use, and we really don't have much of our staff there. Most of our staff is off-site on projects, etc. But it was described very well as to what will be on the site on a continuous basis.
Okay, good, thank you. So I'll bring it back up here for any discussion by the commissions. I'll do that.
Okay. No,
None?
I'm
All right.
very comfortable so far.
So I'll open this agenda item for public comment. Any public comment on this particular agenda item? All right, seeing none, I'll close that and give the commissioners another opportunity to comment or make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit to allow an electrical contracting business. The property address 4303 and 4309 South, 590 West, subject to conditions 1 through 5.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'd second that motion.
All right, any additional discussion? So Jared, could you please do a roll call vote?
Mr. Woodbury.
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich.
Yes.
Ms. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Markham.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Nick.
Yes.
Mr. Hacker.
Yes. All right, motion passes. Congratulations. Thanks for establishing your business in Murray, and wish you good luck. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 5. Jalal Afnani requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow an auto sales business to be located at the property addressed 450 West, 4800 South. So is applicant for that project here. All right, we'll have you come up in a little bit. And staff report, Zachary Small will give us a staff report again.
Great, thank you. Yes, this is an application for an auto sales business located here. It used to be, and I think it still is currently, Mr. Gregory's barbershop, located here just off of 4800 South, Cherry Street, between Cherry Street and 5th West. It is also in the MG zone, which auto sales are a conditional use in this zone. Couple photos for you, just showing kind of what the site looks like today. Mr. Gregory's sign is still up, and it looks like there was some activity there when I was there snapping some photos today. So I had to kind of move this site plan around so that it fits on here a little bit larger. So this side is the north side of the property. This is the 4800 south side. So this is going to be the sales lot area. It's just going to be Mr. Afnani. He will be operating this business by himself. He doesn't propose any employees. And the required parking for this, it would be a minimum of 3 customer parking spaces, which he could fulfill in this area here. The site plan is a little different. This grassy area is a little bit larger, and I can come back to that here. You can see that where 2 of the parking spaces are not located where the site plan was place. This was an older site plan that was recycled, but they did make up for that and put the 2 spaces here, which still meets fire access and fire code. I forgotten about that on this site plan. So this was just extended over a little bit for detention. So with that, we are recommending approval, subject to the 7 conditions. I do want to also acknowledge that we are doing a new way of limiting the number of cars that can be sold on the property, and that they need to be located in striped spaces for a smaller dealership like this. So we are requesting that any for sale vehicles be located in striped parking stalls. Any questions or comments?
I mean, Zach, shouldn't all vehicles be in a striped parking stall? Isn't that kind of the purpose of striping a parking lot, is to tell people where they need to park?
I think that, so what had happened, I think you may have been, I think you had stepped out at this moment in the meeting. In some instances, in some of the larger dealerships, we allow for alternative geometry for storage of vehicles that could be for
That's
sale.
an obscure term.
It
That's
is.
very, very
It
creative.
is.
Alternative geometry.
Yeah, exactly.
I tried that in high school and it didn't affect me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's all sorts of fun
Alternate
stuff.
facts.
But yes, exactly. But it allows for cars to be kind of smushed together and tighter in there in inventory lots. In this instance, I don't think that's feasible at the site to stick in, 30 cars on this lot. So putting them in striped stalls are how I'd approach this.
But, I mean, isn't the concept still the same, though? I mean, if we're going to allow alternative geometry in a larger one, and you have it in a smaller one, so he fits, 10 cars versus 5 cars or whatever, I mean, it just seems kind of a double standard.
I'm not sure how to address that.
Well, it's so fine. You don't have to.
Yeah, it's just that it's a way to limit it so that we don't get a lot that looks kind of like this.
Yeah. I mean, that is definitely alternative geometry.
That is alternative geometry.
But,
and probably got approved at that time to do that. And I can't say that it would be safe for anybody if there were a fire at this building to access the building easily, as opposed to if it were a little more orderly. And also just the pure look of the property as well.
Yeah.
There's not even any customer parking there, really. So.
Oh, yeah. You don't know. Maybe those are customers.
Sure. Yeah.
They could be.
Seen that Allstate commercial? I mean, that's how it is.
So that's generally why that is I'm trying to.
I understand. I just.
No, I think it's a very good standard to adhere to moving forward.
I like it.
I like it very much.
I like that we're doing it. I get frustrated when it appears that we do one thing for one applicant and one thing for another.
I understand.
And so alternative geometry to me should not be a thing.
Okay.
We should go to a big car dealer and say, well, if you want alternative geometry, then let's figure out how to stripe it alternatively.
And I think we did in the past. I don't know if you remember. It was recalled. The applicant recalled the application, but it was on the former America First Credit Union site that was the Big Dog Pond, I think.
Yep.
They had proposed alternative geometry, but we did make them stripe it, but they were able to back those cars up where they were really close.
And that's fine. As long as we're applying the standard across, then I'm fine. We can do alternative geometry. Let's just,
Yeah,
that's fine.
and this would not be alternative geometry.
Okay.
This is just typical.
Fair enough.
And
Thank you for indulging me.
Yeah, you're okay.
So.
No worries.
I agree with Scott. We want to be consistent. I believe in my short time here, when we allowed something that was similar to alternative geometry, we discussed whether fire vehicles could access the property with the geometry they were
That's
suggesting.
correct.
So I think in that mindset, I think you're suggesting the same thing here with the size of the property. this is what you can do to allow a fire truck to still access your facility.
Sure, and also just I would make one further argument that this is just a new way, a new proposed way of us, instead of just coming up with an arbitrary number of how many cars they can or cannot sell on their site. This, I think, backs me up a little bit more and puts me more in a safe spot where I say you fit into an off-street parking stall. So this is what I intend to use going forward.
Good enough.
Any other questions for staff? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Will the applicant come forward, please? And state your name and your address for the record.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jalal Afnani. The address 9538 South Bottomwood Drive, Sandy, Utah.
All right. And have you had an opportunity to read the conditions for approval?
I have.
And are you able to comply with those?
I am.
All right. Do you have anything else to add to the staff report?
No, I don't.
All right. Questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I will open this agenda item for public comment. Anyone like to comment on this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit to allow auto sales business at the property address 450 West, 4800 South, subject to the 7 conditions.
All right, I have a motion. Is there
I'll
a second? And a second. Any additional discussion? All right, Jared, could you do a roll call vote again?
Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Markham?
Yes.
Mr. Woodbury?
Yes.
Mr. Hacker?
Yes. All right, motion passes. Congratulations, and welcome your business to Murray. Good luck with you. All right, agenda item number 6. Truck Ranch Headquarters requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a vehicle storage lot on the property addressed 4697 South Cherry Street in connection with detailing, painting, and preparing trucks for sale. And applicant here this evening, yes. And staff report, Jared Hall will give us a staff report.
Thank you. So the Truck Ranch HQ at 4697 South Cherry Street. This is the property. You can see Cherry Street extends and provides access to this back lot. This was formerly Wagstaff Crane, and before that Hoy Crane. There are several buildings on the site. That some of them are still in use by other entities. Truck Ranch. I'm just going to quickly show you the zoning. This is in the MG zone, so this is an entirely appropriate operation. The inventory of the vehicles for sale is what requires the conditional use permit. Their bodywork, painting, detailing, that's all permitted in the MG zone, but that inventory requires some approval by the Planning Commission. I'm going to go back to this for just one second. As you can see, there are several buildings on the site. Not all of them will be used by the Truck Ranch. I understand that they'll be using building number 1 and then the Quonset hut here. This building will remain in use by others, and other portions of the property are in use for other businesses as well. So building 1 here, the Truck Ranch will operate mainly out of this building. This is the inventory lot on the north end. That's the only part of the property that is not paved. Everything is asphalt or building surface except for road base that's in this area where they are going to store the trucks that are ready to be worked on or ready to be fixed up or have been fixed up and are ready then to be transported to other lots. Their description of it to staff is that they would get vehicles ready here for sale on several other lots that Truck Ranch HQ operates in the county. So just to quickly show you again, so that north area that we mentioned in the pre-meeting as well, this is where the road base starts and the asphalt ends. This is just looking east at the main building 1 that they'll be operating out of. As you can see, everything on the site is asphalt. We did mention in the staff report too, we don't have any requirements for landscaping to be added to this property because the only access is right here. On the extension of Cherry Street, there's no frontage that really can be landscaped, so we haven't required that for the property. We are asking that this is just a shot of the inside of the building. There are several bay doors. All of it leads to a main kind of thoroughfare that takes you to bays for car detailing or bays for mechanic work, etc. was set up by Wagstaff Crane for this kind of work, so they're not asking for any permits at this time. One of the conditions that we've placed is that if they do have work that they want to do remodeling, that they'll get building permits for that. Right now, as I understand it, it's going to be used as it is. Parking for this site, because there are so many things going on, and there are other businesses as well. They're able to provide parking, about 21 spaces around the building. They've indicated that 15 to 20 people would be employed by Truck Ranch HQ at this site. So 21 parking spaces would more than handle their employee needs, and those would be the parking needs generated by this particular business, and it would more than suffice. So rather than count up by the bays, et cetera, because they won't be taking outside work, our normal process for repair bays and painting booths and things like that would be to require 3 spaces per booth or bay. That doesn't make sense in this case because the operation is for internal use only, for the inventory vehicles. So we're basing our parking requirement that we've suggested at 21 stalls on the number of potential employees. With that, I'll let you ask any questions you have. We are recommending approval subject to the 8 conditions that are listed here, including the parking, for example. Have any questions for staff at this point?
Questions for staff?
Just one. I noticed that their sign is already up, and I assume the staff will take care of permitting and whatever's necessary.
And they've been working with our business license division for some time, and getting this ready, this application for the zoning ready, for a number of months. So
okay, great.
That's the sign went up before, and we've been working with them since then.
Perfect.
All right, thank you. All right, applicant, you come up and state your name and your resident or your address for the record.
Jaden Wagner, 4697 South Cherry Street, Murray.
And have you had an opportunity to review the conditions for approval?
Yes.
And are you able to comply with those?
Yes.
And do you have anything to add to the staff report?
No.
All right. Any questions for applicant?
I'll ask it if no one else is going to ask it. You were in the pre-meeting. You heard us discussing where on the condition number 1 says that no vehicle site, yet in your application and your letter you say that you do plan on that. Do you just want to clarify that one way or another?
Yeah, absolutely. This property is not intended for vehicle sales. We have a retail lot on 4500 and State Street, right beside the Midas. That's where all of our salesmen, managers work. We also have a dealership lot in Logan. That's where all our salesmen, managers work. We have a dealership lot in Oregon. That's where all of our salesmen, managers work. And we have multiple other locations opening up, one in American Fork and one in Idaho in 2020. We have no plans of staffing. It's not an ideal spot for retail. In fact, if I order DoorDash, they have a hard time finding it.
Yeah.
So that would be a real pain. It's not a great business plan to try to get customers to come there. But it is ideal for our uses for the reconditioning process.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
I will open this agenda item up for public comment. Any public comment on this particular agenda item? Yes, please come forward and state your name and your address for the record, please.
Into the microphone, sir.
No, we can't show pictures. I'll show you the area
Would you like to submit those to us for review at some later date? Or would you like to submit those to the staff for review at a later date? Or
yeah, I can do that.
My name is Randy Brimhall, and let's see, this is concerning the property at 4617 Cherry Street. Okay, I'm representing my family that owns Cherry Street Plaza, that's located directly to the west of the property of Truck Ranch HQ. Uses for their vehicles to be worked on, the staging area or wherever they put their vehicles there, and I like to welcome them to Cherry Street. I think it's an awesome business you got there, and pretty cool trucks you can put out. Behind the Cherry Street Plaza building runs a strip of land that's owned by the Kent Kewen family trust. It's about 8 feet wide and continues south beyond the Cherry Street's Plaza's south end. In that picture there, we're looking at right there where he's got the pointer right there. The question is where he's got the pointer. On the back side of the Cherry Street Plaza is the he had that pointer up in the corner. Yeah, that's Cherry Street Plaza right there, which would be our building right there. And right there where that pointer is, you can see a. Not sure whether you can see that or not. Sometime in the recent past, a wall and a fence has been placed going from the back of Cherry Street Plaza building, going eastward at 90 degrees from the building. Whether you can see that or not, the green line towards the top shows that. Kind of covers that. I think that was done to help level the parking lot, for use. This wall has been attached to the Cherry Street building by welding to its frame that holds up the building. So their fence, they've went and welded to the frame of my family's building. The attachment was done without any dialogue, discussion, or permission to do so. This structure is on the property of the Kuhn Trust for about 8 feet in order to reach the Cherry Street building to be welded to be held up, and that to hold up the build-up earth to make the parking lot level. So they've built up this wall, and and then it's got another fence, and it's attached to our building, and they welded onto our building. I am asking, I don't know whether you guys are renting or own, or whose responsibility this is, but I would like that wall removed, and I'm asking that for the removal of the wall being attached to the Cherry Street Plaza building, and repair and paint to restore the damage. Also, it'd be good to have a retaining wall to take in that where they build up and made the parking lot level, where they've got the dirt against my building and foundation. I think that they should have a retaining wall built there instead of using my building to hold the dirt in to level the parking lot. The other problem I have there is the water runs off in a little bit of a slope, and it goes against my foundation. And if they would put a retaining wall, that would cure my problems. And I don't think this has anything to do with the truck company itself. I think it's with the landlord or whoever would be in charge of that. That's my main point, and I appreciate your help in helping me with this. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Thank you very much. Are there any additional public comments this evening? Please, yes, come forward. State your name and your address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Ken Q, and I own the property on Cherry Street, 4595 South Cherry Street. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of things that Randy talked about. The retainer wall that was run across there was run by Wagstaff crane. They run that wall across there. So there's a 50-foot, I own a strip of land that goes from Jensen, not quite to Jensen Street, all the way past and then to the truck stop, people's property. There's a 50 52-foot piece of land, 8 feet wide, that I owned. And the truck people are using that piece of ground to store their trucks there. Now, I'd be glad to sell them that strip of land if they'd like to buy it. But right now, I don't know why Wagstaff run that across there. The other option is Wagstaff can tear the wall down so that it will not interfere with my 8-foot strip of ground there. That's it.
We'll,
All right,
we'll have
thank
the
you.
staff address that.
Do what?
We'll have our
The
staff
staff
address
will
that.
address that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
My name is Keith Grundman. We're the property owner of that piece of property which we purchased from Wagstaff. And our address is 4697 South Cherry Street. These pieces of land that have both been addressed by the two previous speakers are detailed out in a survey that we had done after we bought the property. So aware of both pieces. And I don't think this has anything to do with Truck Ranch's application for parking. If the landowners want to talk to us about purchasing or straightening out any boundary issues, we're more than willing to do it.
All right.
They could reach us at 801-363-6255 or just stop over to Building 2 and we're there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments? Yes, sir.
I think the land they're talking about.
No, he's going to come up. He needs
to come up.
Here, can you come to the microphone, please?
Yeah, I think the land that we're talking about that is being crossed is the land of the Coons property, is the property of record, the property that he's paid his taxes on, the property they bought for. And there's a little bit of a conflict on who owns the property, and it's the old survey against the new survey. But the Coon property is the property of record, and there was no attempt to work that out. And I think if they worked it out, maybe something could be done.
I think he just offered to meet with you and work. So hopefully that you guys can get together and work that out, I think.
I'm sorry?
He just offered to sit down and talk with any of the people that have concerns about any issue relating to the fence or the land or anything. So I don't think that any more comments about the land disputes or things are necessarily germane to what we're talking about.
But what about the welding to the building?
Yeah, again, that's the same thing. Those are things. The application we're considering right now is for Truck Ranch HQ and those things. And the owner of this property just offered to sit down with anybody and address any potential issues, concerns, boundary disputes,
Okay, I'd like
including the web. So that was something that you guys can go and do outside of this. And he gave you his phone number and where it is. So I think that's probably appropriate to take this kind of outside of this forum.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
We'll agree on that.
And
Thank you.
Commissioner Woodbury, to add to that comment, the city always wants to help its residents resolve problems. It's just not in tonight's meeting. So you can always come back to the city at some point if need be, just not our topic tonight isn't that topic.
All right, thank you. All right, I will close public comment and I'm going to answer some of these questions.
You've all addressed it pretty well.
All right.
I'm happy to, but I think you did my job nicely.
All right, well, I think we've got property owner that has offered to sit down with all the additional property owners and work out an agreement with who owns which properties and how to restore properties that have fence attached to them. So, I'll bring it back up here for discussion by the commission and/or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit allowing vehicle storage on the property located at 4697 South Cherry Street, subject to conditions 1 through 8.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? All right. Jared, will you please call roll call vote?
Mr. Nang?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich?
Yes.
Mr. Markham?
Yes.
Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Woodbury?
Yes.
Mr. Hacker?
Yes. All right, motion passes, so good luck with your business.
And we hope to see you on the Discovery Channel.
Yes. All right. Agenda item number 7, veterinary office and clinic. Requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow a veterinary clinic to be located at the property addressed 887 East Vine Street. Is the property owner or the applicant here for that particular item? Veterinary office. All right, great. We'll have you. Oh, too much excitement. We'll have you come up in a little bit. All right, staff report. Zachary Smallwood will give us staff report.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, so this is an application for a veterinarian office and clinic, just located west of Vine here off Vine Street. Well, let's try that again. Off of west of 900 East and Vine Street. It's roughly 2,300 square feet. Was previously used as a medical office. They are wanting to convert it to pretty much a medical office just for animals. So it fits nicely. They're not proposing any changes to the interior, anything like that. They're going to use most of it as is. The veterinary clinics are a conditional use in the commercial development district, which this is located. This was the site plan provided. It's pretty much everything is being used as is. I believe they will be fencing off a part of the rear yard to provide for dogs, and I don't know what other kind of animals need to go outside.
Snakes.
Yeah, snakes. There you go, snakes.
Birds.
So yeah, it would be fenced off for any other animals. Just a couple photos of the site. Just pretty much, like I said, being used as is. Could use some additional landscaping as it lays out in the staff report. Floor plan, like I said, pretty much just being used as is. With that being said, we are recommending approval for this use, subject to these 6 conditions. And I'd be happy to answer questions if you guys have any.
Any questions for staff?
Very straightforward.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
The applicant, come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Greg Griffin, 1240 East, 2100 South, Suite 200, here on behalf of the applicant. Just a few things on this. The veterinarian is Chris Lehman, highly experienced, a couple of decades in it. This is a family business, is not a veterinary chain, not that that matters, but I would want to know. No overnight boarding, always important for the neighbors. No exterior mods other than replacing the circa 1984 pink paint, so I hope you're not attached to that. We like the property. It's easily fenced to protect the animals, keep them off the street, away from the neighbors. It's fully ADA compliant. We are happy to add the trees. And I think it's a benefit for the city because there's not another vet clinic within 2-mile radius, so it's a much needed service. And also wanted to compliment staff. They've been really good to work with.
Excellent. Have you had an opportunity to read the conditions for approval?
Yes.
On the screen, are you able to comply with those?
Yes.
All right. Any questions for the commissioners? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will open this agenda item up for public comment. Any comment on this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close it and bring it back to the commissioners and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit to allow a veterinarian clinic business at the property address 887 East Vine Street, subject to the 6 conditions.
I'd like to second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? All right, Jared, could you take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Mr. Nay?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Woodbury?
Yep.
Yes. All right, congratulations, and we'll look forward to having a new veterinary clinic in Marie. Thank you. All right, agenda item number 8, Marie City Corporation requesting a certificate of appropriateness to allow construction of the City Hall building on 5.5 acres owned by the city at the property address 10 East, 4800 South.
Thank you. So as you said, Chairman Hecker, this is a certificate of appropriateness application. The city is the applicant. These are the properties that are involved, all of them between 4800 South and 5th Avenue, from existing Poplar Street, not quite to Box Elder. It's all in the MCCD zone, the Murray City Center District zone, as you noted, and so the title change is different, just for the record and public that may not be aware. We call the site plan approvals and building elevation approvals certificate of appropriateness in this zone. To go through a couple of items on the big ticket items on the site plan. This is an 82,000 square foot building proposed. Some portions of the building are 3 stories tall. It would house city council chambers like this. It would be a replacement city hall. So administrative functions, city council meetings, planning commission meetings would all happen on the east side of the building. This is actually the city council room. We'll show that in the floor plan in a moment, but this west part of the building is actually the police station. So it's a modern police station for the city as well as city hall functions. It does include a couple of off-site parking lots that would be developed in conjunction with the city hall building as well as the parking on the site itself. These would be temporary parking lots. The city would view them as temporary parking lots to be replaced in the future when parking structures become available or as other development occurs that lets us do parking in other areas or increase the parking that's provided there. Another component of this I want to show you in the next slide. Part of this involves vacating Poplar Street, or a large portion of Poplar Street at this time, and realigning across 4800 South Hanauer Street and extending Hanauer Street instead of Poplar. So you can see that in this photograph here. This is existing Poplar Street. That's right here. Hanauer Street is right across 4800 South, and we would line that up with the new Hanauer Street here that would Avenue to Vine Street, sorry, all the way to Vine Street. Only this portion right now is impacting the City Hall site. It's actually being designed through the engineering division with another set of consultants that are working on that design, but it does impact City Hall, so we wanted to bring it up tonight and show you how that alignment works. Another component of this site that we want to make mention of is the Central Plaza here, this gathering place, this node just to the east and south of the main part of the building is positioned so that it's close to available parking and again to kind of a lot of the landscaping and pedestrian circulation features on this site. And this is the City Hall building. So the City Council chambers is right here on the site. So this is all occurring right outside of there. It's a nice big area. We've lacked that in our downtown. Currently, we wanted kind of a gathering place, programmable space. It's intended that there would be activities and entertainment, things like that, many days of the year in this kind of a space. So we're excited about that. A couple of other things that we want to make mention of. This is the MCCD zone, so the improvements that go along these streets, 5th Avenue, the new extension of Hanauer, and then 4800 South are the MCCD improvements. That means this is a 12-foot pedestrian sidewalk, basically, with some landscaping on one side and 8 feet of passable space. Always at the best moments, right? So
it's never good.
I was just really winding up, too.
Sweet, let's watch a movie.
Can you make that mirror on that side?
Could you put that clip on, please? Yeah, okay, we can do that. Again.
Well, it'll be back in a moment, I think. I hope.
That won't happen.
This message from our sponsors.
We hope. We hope.
Jared, I'm sure your presentation's really good.
Yeah, it was awesome. I hope you enjoyed the part of it you got to see.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're not back. Well, again, just while Zach's figuring that out, I'll let you know.
I think we'll have to table
those improvements will be the MCCD standard improvements. So we are looking at at street furniture, benches, lights, etc. There's a lighting plan that I have some depictions of. Eventually, I might get to show you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Can I just ask a question while you're writing on that?
I would really appreciate it. Please, go ahead.
The Murray Mansion is being preserved as part of this, and
yeah,
we're still looking at options for its use.
Yeah, and I'm not part of those discussions. That's being handled through Arts and Culture and the mayor's office. But the Murray Mansion is owned by the city. They're looking at alternative uses for it, and it's not impacted by the development of City Hall. In fact, it'll be
and so it'll be maintained and preserved and
right. And that temporary parking lot that we're seeing on that east side, east of the new alignment of Hanauer, serves that Murray Mansion as well. So when it's used for a museum or whatever purpose it winds up used for, there's parking available for it in that temporary lot that we have. And that parking again would be replaced at some point, but we won't stop using that parking lot or develop that as something else until that parking has been replaced in some other.
And is that a gathering node? Is it just a flat surface, or is there going to be some kind of
bench seating
stepped
built
seating?
into it? There's bench seating built into a small berm. So we have in the elevations or in the renderings, you'll be able to see that a little better. But it does have some grading to it, so it's almost like a small amphitheater.
A mini Gallivan Center.
Yeah, kind of like that. The bench seating is built in this area here. And there will be tables and things, but they're movable, so we can remove them and have larger space if that's needed.
Okay, good.
Another thing just to note before we move on to some other items, this particular area here, this is to serve the police station and the main functions of the city that most people come to the city for, to pay their utility bills, or perhaps they come to city council meetings. The main thrust of the building is a large kind of atrium entrance that runs from one end to the other, north to south. So if you're parking on the south side or the north side, you're still well connected to the building. We mentioned that parking lot again, so you can see this is Murray Mansion right here, and that this parking lot kind of wraps around it and creates some more landscaping here. We can preserve the trees around the building, etc., and provide some parking for it when it's in use. Poplar Street remains open. The south end of Poplar Street remains open for now, and would be access to this parking area as well. We can come back to this slide in a moment if we need to. There was some talk about the parking, and so I won't go through the actual numbers, but they exceed the requirements that we have for the zone, but are not excessive for what we allow as maximums that the Planning Commission can approve. So, and that's with those temporary parking stalls. So again, the plan is to use those as temporary stalls or temporary lots, but replace them in the future. I just wanted to show you clearly on, again, that realignment of Poplar Street and Hanauer. So this is existing Hanauer Street right here, and you're looking down Hanauer Street at the fire station right here in this photograph. Poplar Street dead ends at 4800 South. It would be vacated. It's Poplar Street right there. So that becomes part of that parking lot, that temporary parking lot in the future. And this is that big empty corner where the Grecian Gardens was. The city owns that property as well. If that develops in the future, there's potential for that parking lot to change. Landscaping on the site. Again, there'll be street trees, landscaping all through that plaza, as you can see kind of in this. There's a lot of landscaping on the site. It's supposed to be kind of a campus. The landscaping plan we've been looking at, one of the items that came up in the DRC, in that DRC review, is that there's some space between the street and the building here. And we're supposed to use, if the civic building needs to create additional space in setback, we're supposed to use that for public purposes, for plazas or courtyards, etc. Zach actually suggested when we were going through the DRC, and it was an idea that was well received, and we're still kind of excited about it, that we were also required to use bioswales in these projects to treat stormwater in a natural way. So we suggested that they use these areas that we're going to be creating more landscaping in as bioswales and make them demonstration gardens. So when we're talking to developers that need to use bioswales as well, we can take them outside and show them what we're expecting them to do. There's actually bioswales on the west side of the property as well, but this will be the only demonstration garden for bioswales. But so you know. This is the lighting plan. This is just showing positions of lighting on the site and on the streets. Again, I mentioned that Hanauer Street is not truly it's being developed separately, the plans for this. This is just to show you we're looped in on that a little bit, but it's going through the engineering office, so it's being run separately. So these are actually the light positions on Hanauer Street.
Are they the same lights that we have in our packet?
Same kind of lights, yes. And there's varying sizes and heights, etc. There's a full photometric plan that I'm not going to bore you with, but we're trying to adhere again to those standards that are in the MCCD zone about not light polluting the area. So with that, we can look at some elevations, and we can come back to any of these items as you want. I'm just going to move through the rest of the presentation and let you ask questions. This is the west elevation. So you're seeing basically the police station. I mentioned that there's a 2-story portion of the building that's the police station. This is the police station portion, and again onto the 3-story portion that's the main part of the administration, and that atrium that runs through the building. South elevation, so you're looking at the council chambers. Outside of the council chambers is actually a copper cladding. It's kind of an interesting effect, and that'll be right there visible from that plaza that we're trying to create. So that area will be visually very interesting, we feel like. There were some challenges in including the police station in the site, and that did necessitate some changes. So the applicants worked with the DRC to create a better pedestrian plan through the site, because the west side of the property is not intended to be super accessible, because the police's Sally Port is there where they have a secure entrance and exit for vehicles.
See you again.
Yeah, it's just going to do it all night, I guess.
It did say in there that there is.
Should I try it again or not?
Spots for police, yeah. So like there. There's spots to
Okay. All right. I'm going to move fast in case we lose it again, okay? Again, the north elevation, so at this elevation, this is what you would see from 4800 South. A little portion, just something to talk about here. We had a dead space because of the police station and their need for an evidence room. So we had a blank wall, and we don't like those in the MCCD zone. It was suggested by the DRC that they use some public art there. So this isn't programmed yet, but we'll anticipate that we could hire or contract a couple of 3 artists locally to create something for that public art panel. That'll be adjacent to the parking.
Banksy's available.
You never know. You never know who's going to be interested. So, and we have some other public art going on in the area. The Grant Square development has some public art at the back of there. They have a big mural wall. It's pretty cool. So,
well, and the Olympic Sculpture Garden in Seattle, something along those lines would be lovely.
So we have a few murals and things going on in this area. So we're excited to see some public art on our side as well, and maybe that catches on. The east elevation, again, you're going to see this from that new extension of Hanauer Street. Some renderings just to show you the different materials and things. We did, the DRC actually pushed them to extend the pilasters here to create more masonry elements along with a lot of glass here. It is clear glass, which is what we like to use in the MCCD, so there's visibility, especially on the street. You're seeing right here that public art portion that we could use there. We did actually get some more glass added to the police station portion. It was a lot of brick and block there at one point. That's been extended, so they were able to move things around inside to get more windows on that side to kind of better meet the standards of the zone. Again, you're seeing that big atrium there that runs the full length of the building, kind of connects the police station and the city hall side, and really connects both sides of the building in 4800 South to Fifth Avenue side. This is the Fifth Avenue side and the Hanauer Street side. This is that public plaza area. We mentioned the seating, Commissioner Wilson, that we talked about. That's behind this little berm here. So you have seating built into the hillside there, and again, movable tables, etc., for that area. The atrium, again, is kind of the central feature of the building. That you're seeing it right here. It's a large open area connecting both sides. This is the council chambers, so you have a kind of a nice grand entrance for the council chambers, and there's a lot of glass leading into the council chambers so people can see what's going on.
Do you know what seating's going to be in the council chambers?
Capacity? I wish I had counted that.
Is it bigger than this? I would assume.
4 times this.
4 times the size. Okay.
At least 4 times the size of that. A lot more seating capacity. The days of having to have people stand around the hall
stand
are
in the
probably
halls.
over.
Okay.
And if they are standing in the hall, they'll be looking through the glass watching what you're doing. So it'll be all right that way. These are, again, stairs going up to those second floors, third floors, etc., through that grand atrium. With that, I'll end our presentation and let you guys ask questions and have the public comment portion. We're recommending approval with 8 conditions. Some of these have already been met, but we're leaving them in place just as it carries forward so we make sure that the building actually carries through with those requirements. Any questions for staff at this point?
Jared, the DRC had a lot of comments about the proposed building.
Yes.
And in more than one instance in here, staff agrees that those recommendations or those standards were not met at this time, and we would have to work on them in the future and so forth. And I'm just a little concerned. I know that the bottom line is the DRC approved the project, and that gave it their stamp of approval, despite all of the concerns in that. But there's this little guy inside of me saying, if a private developer had brought this forward and all of those concerns had been expressed, that this wouldn't be moving forward at this juncture. It would still be under consideration and review. Is that a fair sentiment?
Yes and no. I think in some ways. Part of the DRC's first analysis of it in June included a really strict interpretation of the design guidelines. And you can read them that way, but you don't have to based on other language that we have. We have conflicting language. Part of our proposal to changes to the MCCD guidelines, or to the MCCD zoning requirements, involved making that language match to make it clear that the guidelines are guidelines that are intended to provide, it states this in a couple of places, to provide opportunities and increase the creativity of the design. They're not intended as strict requirements to adhere to. So it does actually, in our view, at this point, we're bringing it forward saying it does meet the requirements of the design guidelines and the MCCD zone, because they've addressed them as much as they can, as much as is practicable on the site.
Sure, or they wouldn't have approved the project.
Correct.
I understand that.
So we had that conversation with them as we went from June to September.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff before comments?
Along the same lines, in the DRC, there was discussion about bike lane on, I can't pronounce it, Hanauer. Where did we stand on that topic?
Hanauer, again, is being designed through the engineering division, and it's tied up in future requirements that are part of the Transportation Master Plan too. So we may or may not be able to provide bike lanes on Hanauer Street. We may or may not be able to provide them on 4800 South as well. They're trade-offs to on-street parking and bike lanes. But as those street finishes, our side improvements, we will do for sure, our pedestrian zone adjacent to the buildings. The rest of the street, we're still a little bit in flux. So wherever it's possible, we will provide bike lanes. I think we provided bicycle parking for 12 bikes on the site.
Could you show us where those will be?
Where the lanes will be, or where the bike parking is?
The bike parking.
Okay, so bike parking is in two different places.
I'm just thinking about when I have to ride my bicycle to go to
Yeah.
Ice House, where can I park? If Ice House's parking is full.
There you go.
Bike parking is near this entrance and this entrance.
So there is one.
Good.
Well, I was also wondering, because Vine, there is a bike lane recognized on Vine, so why are we discussing 48 versus Vine, or versus 5th?
Why are we discussing 48 having bikes versus
Right.
5th having
I
bikes?
thought it would be more of a natural flow from Vine over to 5th or further south in the MCCD than 48 south.
Or possibly up Box Elder, et cetera. And those kinds of bike lane provision plans are still being worked out. We're not sure what the paths will be. We'll provide the goal of the MCCD zone would be to provide them wherever we can, wherever we have those widths. But you trade that width for something else, and many times it's on-street parking. So we have to kind of balance that.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
In the discussion about the entries, the section requires that there's an entry every 75 feet on average, and in this building we're suggesting every 120 feet due to complications with the security of the building. Could you expand on that just a little bit? So we
Yeah, so we have a guideline that says 75, an average entrance every 75 feet. In order to meet that standard on this site, we wouldn't be able to include the police station at all. So civic buildings, we have proposed in the new MCCD design guidelines, in the new MCCD zoning ordinance, we have proposed an exception to those standards being granted if there are security concerns that can be demonstrated. The police station definitely meets those. On the City Hall side as well, there are security concerns that most retailers would not have, or that apartment structures, for example, would not have.
Yeah, normally I would actually really dig into you about that one, but in this case I have no problem with it.
It's just, in some instances, you cannot provide that.
And to be honest, I didn't really have a problem either. I just felt like it'd be appropriate to be in the record that we addressed
I
it.
appreciate that.
Any additional questions for staff? That was your opportunity. All right, thank you, Jared. Applicant would like to come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Jesse Allen, GSBS Architects, 375 West, 375. Yeah, look it up.
Aren't you like 375 West, 2nd South?
Yeah, that's what that's right. 375 West, 2nd South, Salt Lake, 84121.
All right.
Sorry.
Have you had an opportunity to read the conditions for approval?
We have.
And are you able to comply with those?
We are.
And would you like to add anything to the staff report that we heard?
No, I would just, given the comments that were talked about earlier about the MCCD guidelines, I would just state that I do think that a civic building, as is addressed in the revisions to those guidelines, has different requirements than the commercial properties that were, I think, the MCCD ordinance originally intended to address. A civic building requires different treatment than your average commercial development or multifamily development. So, and I do think we appreciated the comments that came from the DRC, and we tried to address all of those that we can, given within the program of this building.
Okay. Any questions from the staff?
I would just like to know what originally, as you were developing the concept for the building, and that was the police station always going to be a part of this, or did that come at a later stage? I was not aware that the police department would be part of the new city hall.
It was always a part of our.
So it's always been
our portion of the. I mean, as far as GSBS has been on the project, it's been a part of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will now open this item for public comment. Anyone like to make comment regarding this agenda item? Please come forward to the podium. And state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Delenn Barney, and I live at 4902 South Box Elder Street. And if Jared would bring up the first picture without dumping in his computer that shows the verbiage on the picture, I'll try to explain where. If you look at the picture, you look where the X is. Well, further down than that. Maybe I have a different picture. I live off of about between 4th and 5th South on the west side of Box Elder Street. And as I look at this city hall, it may meet some of the requirements of the MCCD district and the DRC, but to me it doesn't seem to be a very prominent location for a city hall compared to the other city halls that have been in Murray City that used to be on State Street that faced to the east, the one that used to be up on the hill that faced to the west, and this one right here. Seemed like there ought to be some place that the citizen can be a little bit more proud of their city hall and what they're looking at, rather than getting it tucked away in semi-obscure location behind some other businesses. One thing that concerns me about where they're putting the city hall too is the traffic coming off of Vine Street onto Box Elder Street where I live, or coming off of 48 South onto Box Elder Street, and the additional traffic going off and on there or across Box Elder Street because even today there was an accident, and as I tried to cross Box Elder Street, it was hard for me to see up and down the street without any type of provision to limit traffic flow. And also I'm concerned about the bicycles that would go up and down Box Elder Street. Right now the fire station is being built, and cars are parked on both sides of the street, which could represent the amount of traffic, just people coming and going. There doesn't seem to be room for the vehicles, let alone having bicycles on those streets. When Jared was showing the picture of that mural that could be possibly built, my thought came to this coming weekend with Veterans Day and the Marine Corps birthday, which I feel strongly about because I'm both a veteran and a former Marine, and so I have a soft spot in my heart for that, for those people that did do some service. And it seemed like there ought to be some place on the City Hall complex for a memorial for the veterans, and especially those that have sacrificed their lives for this country. One thing that concerns me about the location of the police station is, I don't know how many individuals will be apprehended by the police, and then after they've been booked or whatever's been done with them, then they will be released into the community. And since I live close by, what may or may not happen to my neighborhood or the people I live close to. About 3 weeks ago, my home was broken into, and some personal items were disrupted and taken. And so it concerns me with with this dispersion of the homeless throughout various communities in the city, how that would be impacting where I live. I think, as far as the transparency of the building, to me, that's almost a contradictory term for this particular building, because the citizenry was not asked for a vote on the building, nor was the bond for the building citizenry asked about if they wanted to have the money spent for that. So it's very much a contradictory term in my mind. But I think other than that, other than my concerns about how that property came about being purchased, some of it by eminent domain, some of it by basically telling people either you have to move out. It concerns me, the way it was brought about. And that's about all I had to say. I've lived in Murray City for quite a long time and hope to live here for much longer. And with that, I'll say thank you and have a good night and a good Veterans Day.
Thank you very much. Are there additional comments regarding this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment period and bring it up here to the commission for additional discussion.
I was just going to say, first of all, Mr. Barney, thank you for your words. Thank you for your service. We appreciate that. Has there been any thought or anything for any sort of veterans or patriotic sort of treatment in,
Not yet, not that I'm aware of, but it's certainly not ruled out. Those spaces are pretty unprogrammed. I mean, we're just showing kind of a blank slate. So it's
and that's what I thought. So I appreciate Mr. Barney bringing that up, because I certainly think it's worth considering, looking how we can do that. I love the idea of the plaza and being able to do celebrations there, but certainly if there could be some sort of a permanent, I think that would be justified and a good thing to do, and a great accent to the city hall. I know even the police department and things. So I think that would be great.
It's a great suggestion.
And then just the other thing, not necessarily for you, Jared, but this is the reason why a couple weeks ago I was adamant on the DRC staying in those guidelines, because I personally value their opinion. I know that many of them are, and I agree with what Commissioner Markham said, that it seems like that there are some, maybe some of their opinions that were kind of looked to the other way, or maybe not looked the other way, but might have been held to a little higher standard if it had been a private developer versus the city. But with that said, I respect their opinions. I respect their credentials to make those decisions that I can, and so that's really one. Just wanted to add this. This is the reason I feel like it's very important for us to have the DRC as an important part of the MCCD. So
I agree with that wholeheartedly. These folks are professionals, and they provide a very valuable service, I think, to all of us here in the city, with their reviews, suggestions, and comments. And hopefully the mayor's office will see that and continue to have a design review committee involved in these things.
Yep.
The overall feeling about this is that we want our city hall to be a showpiece and be, in my mind, like progressive of what it could look like. We want it to draw people. We want to have that really kind of like center of our MCCD. And I feel like this building really accomplishes that, especially with the multiple uses that it was trying to like incorporate and encompass. And so I totally respect the design review committee, and I think that they do a wonderful job. They are way more trained and experienced than I am, but I also think that only rigidly sticking to certain guidelines. Some flexibility in some of those things means that we have openness to something that maybe other developers wouldn't be willing to do. And so I think that by the city being that and backing some of that, like really like kind of forward looking design, like I really value that and appreciate that. And I think that this building really does accomplish that. So I would never disregard their opinions, but I also think, you know, this is a good maybe balance of some of those things that they were trying to work out.
Well, my hope for something like this is that this serves as a trigger for some redevelopment.
Definitely.
And the vision that's been talked about for decades for old downtown Murray and historic Murray. It really is sorely in need of a shot in the arm, and this will definitely do that. The public space, I think, is key. I'm more excited about the public space surrounding the building than just about anything else. And with the Hamlet development going in, the new fire station, the bars on 48th have invested a lot of money. That's completely different than it was 5 years ago over there. It's an inviting, safe space now, and it wasn't that before. And so I think we're slowly starting to see things happen, but hopefully this will be the explosion that really triggers some development that we can really be proud of in that part of Murray.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think, you know, Mr. Barney's comment was, maybe there could have been some other locations that might have been better, more prominent. And while I think as Murray exists today, one on the corner of the Costco or someplace like that might have been a little bit better. I really love that this can serve as a catalyst to really improve that area. I think it's a good location. And along those lines, Jared, what is the proposed timeline for this project?
Jesse, if I get this wrong, tell me, right? Okay.
He doesn't even remember his address. You think he's going to...
Again, it's like they're just versions of planners. It's shapes and colors, not numbers.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. As long as someone drove him there, we're fine, but he'll know.
So if my understanding is that that ground would break this coming spring. Is that right, guys? That's the hope. Ground would break this spring. It's probably an 18-month
24 months.
So I'm always the optimist. 24 months, 2 years to construction.
24 months, so 36. Okay, so
my office is currently dingy, and I've been in a long time, and I'm looking forward to the new office.
Are you getting a window?
Yeah, I get a window.
Will everyone will this house?
This will
all in city employees, or there'll still be people in other?
So there'll still be Public Works will still be on 5th West, where we're currently located. Public Works will stay there, but all of the admin, the billing, utility billing, the mayor's personnel, the city council, all of community and economic development. Who else? I'm missing the recorders, the passport office, everything that's currently here, and half of what's on 5th West will be in this new location. So, and to that point, to that same statement, yeah, with Granton Square, with Mr. Brodsky's development, that's coming along really nicely and looks great. So we're really starting to get a kind of a critical mass in this kind of neglected part of Murray, and that was always the intent. And State Street will happen much more easily and much more on its own when this is kind of in place and these things are happening. 4800 South already looks entirely different than it did when I started
all the way
working
to 300 West. It's a completely
totally different
area.
street.
Yep. Yeah.
And this will just enhance that even further. So we're really excited about it.
And Travis, if you're curious, if you want to drive by.
Oh, that's the window right there.
Yeah. That's my window right there.
Right behind the tree. That's appropriate. So,
all right. Any other comments by the commissioners?
Well, I was just going to say, just kind of addressing what Mr. Barney said about the location. Initially, I was concerned about it being set back off State Street, but then when you start to think about the ramifications of having a city building right on State Street with traffic issues, with people going in and out and stuff, it makes much more sense to have it off State Street and then leave State Street for retail and businesses and other things that we can attract that will provide tax base and income for the city.
Right. And it's the hope for the future. So this site will sit right between the developments on Vine Street, all of the MCCD is right between the developments at the station on Vine Street and the stuff that's happening good on State Street already and that will be enhanced by that. So it's right in that intersection.
Yeah, it's really going to beautify that area.
And the location, the design allows for programming behind the building. So festivals, farmers markets, things like that. And to give staff credit where credit's due as well, I appreciate in the packet you stated each department, there was some research done in which each department looked at and tried to project future growth and allow for that in the building, which is nice.
Just want to talk about parking a little bit. I know that there have been some concerns about min-max parking in the area. I personally feel like if you eliminate the 2 off-site parking, it doesn't impact anything. If you look at the amount of parking that we have here currently on site, shared with the police, I have never seen this parking lot full. I've been here a lot. Now, obviously, we're going to program this building a little differently, but I still think that with the tight neighborhood streets, you're going to be able to street park additional people. People are going to be willing to walk a block or 2 or 3 for some programmed event. I think if bike lanes do ultimately get incorporated to the site, regardless of where they come in from, you're going to see people coming to programmed events on their bicycles. I'm very happy with what you guys have presented here, and I look forward to seeing what happens.
Cool. Thank you.
I was just going to comment real quick too that I really like the bioswales and the idea of having an education garden on site, because that'll be such a nice thing to kind of get a 2-for-1. Here's a native plant. Oh, and here's what it's called. Just kind of a nice community thing, which is what we're shooting for as a community center.
Yeah, that was all Mr. Smallwood's idea. It was perfect.
Zach.
I was never happier that we hired him than that day. It was a great idea.
How about when he fixed your computer?
All right. Additional comments by the commission? All right. Jared, would you please take a roll call vote?
We need a motion.
We need a couple motions.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission that the Planning Commission approve the requested certificate of appropriateness subject to conditions 1 through 8 as presented tonight.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Now, Jared, please take a roll call vote.
Mr. Markham.
Yes.
Mr. Woodbury.
Yes.
Ms. Patterson.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich.
Yes.
Mr. Ney.
Yes.
Mr. Hacker.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right. Motion passes, and I think we all wish the city good luck with this facility. Should be a great facility, good place to meet, and as we all said, a good catalyst for the MCCD that we've all been waiting to see develop. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Last order of business. If there is any additional business that staff has for the commission.
So November 21st, it's getting close to Thanksgiving with the November 21st agenda, so if you do have any issues with that night, please let us know. It's nice to see all of you here. So yeah, we already know Travis won't be here, so
Again?
So you're aware.
Again.
Just
That's why they put him in the hole.
that in the minutes.
You realize, Travis, that's why you're there.
One word.
You don't show up enough.
How are you over there?
I show up more than you.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Anything else, Jared? We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
His or quality appearances, though.
They are.